Alright, Churbs. So, like many of us out there who enjoy educational videos on YouTube, I pre-ordered and then read immediately Hank Green's new book, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. For those of you who don't know, Hank Green has been a major figure in social media and online video, and he thinks very critically about his platform and community, and I, along with loads of other people, want to hear what he has to say, given his deep sense of responsibility to those communities. And the book was so much fun. I read it because I appreciate the respect he has for his platform, and his protagonist, April May, clearly shared those characteristics. She ruminates early on in the book about the nature of art and the message she would want to communicate, and that's part of the fun. It's a book driven by the dramatic tension of tribalism in online communities, focusing on those who serve as the nodes connecting an international population, and it's also a meditation on the nature of those communities themselves. Okay, so the plot. Impressive robot-like sculptures appear in the major urban centers of the world, and they're quickly given the name Carl by the protagonist, April May. The robots are impartial. Their bodies absorb no energy. Their neutrality as objects is important because in this book they are used as a substitute for conversations around technology. The idea is that new technologies connecting us in a shared global experience, like Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, are neither tools of hope or fear intrinsically. They're ideologically agnostic. And that's the point here. A hammer as a piece of technology is neutral. It can be used to build a home, or it can be used as a weapon. Conversations about a hammer can choose to focus on either of those uses, but the thing itself is neutral. The theme of people projecting personal beliefs onto blank canvases appears a few times in this book. April notices this theme early on when she experiences pundits who want to use what's happened to talk about the same things that they talk about every day. The book, An Absolutely Remarkable Thing, moves this conversation to social media and communication technologies. Just as a hammer can be used to build or tear down, global communication technologies can be used to facilitate amazing collaborations capable of solving all sorts of problems, as it does in the Dream in this book, or like peaceful protests. Additionally, the Dream sounded a whole lot like MIT's Mystery Hunt. Or it can be used to coordinate terrorist attacks and organize hate groups, as it does in the book. In the book, we examine these issues through the lens of April May. Before coming to the understanding that the Carls are alien, she believes them to be a piece of artwork, and in particular, she appreciates their craftsmanship and beauty. Now, if we transfer that perspective to our communication technologies, we could have the same reaction. They're both well made and often beautiful. I should also note here that April continues this perspective and her defense of the Carls even after she learns that they're alien. On the other side of this debate is Peter Petrowicki, and he argues that because we do not know the intentions of the Carls, we have to default to caution and fear, and in doing so, treat the Carls as hostile agents. This has parallels in the real world because when communication technologies make the world a little smaller and expose us to the perspective of others who have very different perspectives from our own, we can easily default to the fear of the other and instinctively want to preserve our individual perspective. I was reminded while reading this part of a great essay by the Jesuit priest named Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, written in about the 1950s about the atomic bomb. Instead of focusing his essay on the destructive nature of the bomb, he focuses on the extreme collaboration across time and space that led humanity to the moment where it could first split the atom. The ability to split the atom is neutral. It can be used to form the energy that will power a hospital, or it can be used to destroy cities in an instant. Chardin ends this meditation by comparing the two perspectives of the future of man when confronted with this new power. One of these perspectives he describes as the spirit of autonomy and solitude. Man with his own strength and for his own sake opposing a blind and hostile universe. The other he describes as the spirit of service and giving. Man struggling like Jacob to conquer and attain a supreme center of consciousness which calls to him. The evolution of Earth ending in an act of union. These perspectives find their voice in Peter Petrowicki and April May respectively. He defaults to opposition and hostility, while she defaults to service and unity. But again, remember that this is just people using a neutral object to talk about something that we all want to talk about anyway. It's humans discussing human nature. Who doesn't want to talk about that? April gets really caught up in that. Her actual views on the Carls and social media are complex, but when confronted with the position of Peter Petrowicki, which is so firmly embedded on one side of this binary, she feels like she needs to weaponize her own celebrity to oppose him. Though Maya, her romantic partner, and April's parents relentlessly persist in viewing April as a human being, others, including April herself, increasingly view April as a symbol or a tool in the fight to choose collaboration over division. Even after her own identity, intelligence, and creativity are co-opted by the mediums that she uses to communicate, she remains fully human to the people who knew her before the original video. But here's where I get confused. Hank, if you're watching, I have some questions. This all works really well until the end when we find out that the Carls aren't neutral. That they, or it, deliberately chose April May by messing with the Metro card reader and stoplights and guiding her directly to the New York Carl. So my question is, why didn't you make the Carls entirely neutral? I'm really struggling with this one. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to try to give it a go while I'm waiting for your response. At first I thought that April May could be an everyman character, and that her being chosen is like a medieval morality play where the point is that we could all be chosen. But so much of the end of the book stresses her human identity, so she can't be a symbol or a representation of something else, even if that something else is humanity. She absolutely has to be fully April May, an individual human being who can be hurt physically and emotionally. Symbols, in the end, lack complexity, and she cannot be reduced to that, or else the book doesn't make much sense. And then there was her apotheosis. She essentially dies and is resurrected like a traditional Christ figure. But again, I thought she can't be a traditional Christ figure because that's a trope, and she's fully human. When I thought a bit more about that, though, I realized that an actual, true to the story of Christ figure requires the emphasis on the frailty and complexity associated with having the human form. So maybe that's it. She is chosen by the Carls to be a vessel through which the world learns to have a bias for collaboration and service through sustained attention. The problem there is that that would make the Carls, or the technology that they stand for, the Godhead. And I don't think that's quite right, but perhaps it's a comment on our technology outpacing our ability to deal with it, so it's functionally alien? Or at least it has a power that can't be fully understood, so it's divine? On a slightly related note, at first I thought the Carls, or the technology they stand for, were the eponymous, absolutely remarkable thing. But then, following this thought of a fully human, everyman Christ figure, I realized that the remarkable thing is probably humanity. And I think that's made clear after Carl gives his one-word opinion of us near the end of the book. Beautiful. Ultimately, after thinking about this book for a few days, I'm reminded of a line in a classic essay by Walter Benjamin, where he explains that mankind, in Homer's time, was an object of contemplation for the Olympian gods, but now is one for itself. In becoming the subject of its own contemplation, humanity treats its human subjects as something alien. This theme is also often repeated during the book, in scenes that include the humanity of the president and the descriptions of the news studios. I can't help but think that that's what's going on in this book. Humanity live streams the sacrifice of April May as an aesthetic experience, and she learns some fundamental truths about mankind as a social and collaborative animal. Lessons she doesn't truly understand until it's too late. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the book a couple of days after finishing it, but I'd really love to keep talking about it. I hope that you will share your opinions in the comments below. I'm obviously still working through a lot of these thoughts, and I love nothing more than discussing books with interesting people, so hopefully I'll see you in the comments.